To be fair. 40K today. Today, let's talk about stuff and things. All things GWE. I've got stuff. They put out a lot of content over the weekend. Some of it wasn't 40K, but we had tournaments. Drukhari did all right. They were 1 and 2 in one of the tournaments. They were 1, 2, and 4 in one of them. They did all right. Come on, Sigs. They you know what?
I've been seeing it week in, week out. Drukhari are stronger than AdMech. They're better than AdMech. They need to be nerfed harder than AdMech. And John and the stats week after week after week.
You know, after I watched you guys talk about the top list this afternoon, and then this blatant attack on Drukhari, clearly we're gonna have to drug test you, Sigler, because I feel that you've definitely been ingesting mind-altering substances. GW, stay away from Drukhari. He has no idea what he's talking about, and it's nonsense. You even let Nick in on the Drukhari list. You guys should have beat that away with a stick. We're just he's fading away.
Anybody who thinks that AdMech is stronger than Drukhari is crazy. Drukhari is easier. They have cheaper units, more units. They play better in heavier terrain. It's a done deal. They are better.
He's a crazy person. This is 40K. Look at, with age comes wisdom. And with that wisdom, I'm here to tell you that they should nerf AdMech at least 2 more times and leave Drukhari alone. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. They did all right. Anthony won the tournament this weekend. We had a lot of 40K stats. We just went over that Meta Monday, but they did well. And the thing is that you saw, you know what I do like about Drukhari right now is the fact, besides the automatic Cult of Strife inclusion of at least 1 patrol, we actually had a Real Space Raider in there today. Also, just nerf both. You step away from that, Brandon. Let Sigler and I argue about this. We leave both of those alone.
Metallica. I'm doing all the crazy stuff here. I'm getting the most out of this book.
No, but I like the fact that you saw tournaments, especially overseas. They're really big on Obsidian Rose. Obviously, metas are all different, you know, depending on where you do. But where you live. Yes, where you do. I'm very hip to the chatter of the young kids. I got my hand on the pulse of the kids. I know it's cool, but I do like the fact that you're seeing different builds that are doing well for both the AdMech and for Drukhari right now. So you're seeing just different stuff that's just doing well, and even under an underpowered army like Drukhari's finding tournament builds that are different each time. An easy Grey Knight player. I actually think I like Grey Knights a lot. I actually think that they're gonna do well. They're gonna do things. I think that it's a different play style than Grey Knights have ever had, in the fact that they can missile up 5-man units, and I think it's gonna take a while to work into that type of play style. So I really like it a lot. I think Grey Knights are a sleeper, and I think they're somewhere in the congested tier. If you're going to do a tier list, I'd say that they were in the A tier with about 10 other codexes, though. What are your thoughts on that, Siegs?
And other codexes? Name these 10 codexes.
Well, not codexes. I would say faction, because I'm putting like 6 different Marine chapters all in the same place too, and they're all in one book, I guess. So, but they're all different. They're all different in my heart to me, because when I grew up and walked 20 miles to school every day uphill in the snow, all those Blood Angels and White Wolves with scars and all those people had their own book. They weren't a supplement, my friend. They were their own book.
Honestly, yeah, Marines are still in an amazing spot. If you checked out earlier the discussion that we had on top 5 army lists, very seriously considered. We had White Scars up there, Black Templars were up there, Ultramarines were in the discussion, as well as Death Watch. So Marines I think
the Marines are great. That's why I think that they have a tier to them. They're almost their own tier to myself. I really think the power armor tier is like tier A, basically. They can play into anything very well. And of course, it was uphill both ways. I do love Lyle's comment on this, by the way. The more Brad says an underperforming R like Drakari, the more I hope Vulcan behind him brings that hammer down on top of his noggin. He's hearing my blasphemy.
I'm counting on Vulcan as well. But I agree. Like, if you just take Grey Knights, right? They have a Rights of War equivalent. They have relatively similar data sheets. Vanguard vets are replaced by interceptors. Their regular troops are all very strong. They get psychic damage for a few more points, and they have some extra jank with Grandmasters and decent shooting. So, like, why can't Grey Knights be up there? I haven't been able to play the Dread Knight builds yet, but I am very confident that they can help, especially against some of the top armies like Drukhari. Just keep the distance between you and them. So
I've been having a lot of success. I do want to go into the super chat real quick. Yo, Siegs, for my match, I want a rematch of Siegs Necrons versus Lenin's Custodes. Ooh.
Switched up already. I thought we were doing Custodes versus Thousand Sons. We're going to do Necrons versus Custodes. I'll do it. I am going to bring Catan, though. And last time I brought the Silent King, but I don't think the Silent King is viable whatsoever. If you want me to run him, I'm happy to do so. But I will run Catan, and John's going to be real sad when the Nightbringer sights down his whole army.
You wouldn't even have to. You're just going to mortal wound him out of existence. That is...
Like, I genuinely think that's the only way Necrons can beat Admech is with Catan. And even then, it's hard. But Sky of Falling Stars does help against these Skitarii.
I actually, weirdly enough, and I work with some Necron players with it, and I've been talking a lot about that. And I'm usually allergic to any model that costs too much, over 100 points. But in this particular meta and against a lot of these things that are basically bringing, ignore AP 7 and down, reroll all my saves, putting mortal wounds on people is a huge deal, and or just ignoring saves altogether. You know what I mean? So they have some serious utility, and a KG player can, and there's some seriously good Satan powers, man.
They are good. They are at least 100 points overcosted. They are absurdly overcosted.
Agreed. However, but you were looking at the Necron army. What is your option in this meta?
Everything's overcosted, so it's fine. Live in a book of overcosted data sheets compared to the meta, so you might as well pick something. And at least the Catan don't instantly die against most armies. Now, Thousand Sons might be a tough matchup because they have the targeted stuff, but I feel like the speed of Necrons... Thousand Sons are not a fast army, and the amount of wounds that Necrons can soak up with stuff like Scarabs is actually quite good. So they can help tie down the characters, soak up as much damage as possible, and try and keep the Catan alive. So I think that matchup's still playable for sure.
Yeah, I actually like the GK on that. We brought it on that. We go back and forth on that, but I'm not gonna lie. You were talking about the Dread Knight build. I've been having doing some play testing with 30 strikes and 30 interceptors, and just 5-man squatting it everywhere.
I love 30 interceptors. 30 strikes is a lot. I actually would rather trade out several of those for purifiers, and just get extra additional casts up close. Bring them rhinos and then drop them out for purifying.
Yeah, I can see that. It's just I just like the extra OBSEC everywhere. That's not even the end all be all. It's kind of in the testing stage, but I really really like being in Convergence, Words of Power, hammer handing a squad, and just basically sending them up there to trade laughably up. You know what I mean? Because you're looking at fishing for 6s, 2 mortal wounds on each 6. Just slamming them in there and being able to trade into things that you have absolutely no business being in hand to hand with, and usually winning that fight.
Yeah, my only concern is this extra smite damage. It's just more efficient to get Purifying Flame, and they can be OBSEC through 2 different ways. I really like a Noble Sacrifice, even though you're taking Unyielding Anvil for the OBSEC aura. I really like all of a sudden I have it in this area as well, and it doubles with the Unyielding Anvil, and you could just get a bunch of primary points for no reason. So I've actually been liking that.
I can see that too. I just think they have play. I think that we're just going to have to gaze this. Nice. Yeah. I love everything about that. But there's tons of stuff going on, man. Drukhari went super, super well this weekend. And the thing is they actually brought a variety of lists. We saw a couple very vehicle heavy lists. We saw Anthony's list, which is bringing similar to mine, which is, I think he's bringing 4. I'm bringing 3 right now. And you just saw more units. But you see a lot of these things bringing the tried and true, the things that have been found for Drukhari that are just super annoying. Things like the Court of the Archon. Just huge value with Feel No Pain, tons of wounds. It's ridiculous. So
Brad means undercosted.
I think that it's overcosted, and that's my point. Is that I'm annoyed at the cost of the Court of the Archon.
Get out of here. Read
I
5 of Feel No Pain on a 16 win model.
what I feel that you meant to say 24 wounds for 136 points with a 5 of Feel No Pain.
All day.
Yeah, I do take it all day. You know,
Yeah,
the funny thing is there was multiple lists that performed this weekend that brought 2 courts. So, and I have seen, it's funny because you saw 2 court lists and you also saw 2 Trueborn lists, 2 like double Trueborn and multiple lists actually. So,
I mean, Drukhari just have options everywhere. It's like whatever you take is good. There's hardly any stinkers in there.
true. I have to give it to that. The Codex is okay. It gives you some options, my friend. If you haven't done it already, a decent Worm strategy video could be how to cope with fights last if your army doesn't have it. You know what? We'll put out we've done a video on this before, but I'll do one next week. To tell you the truth, we'll do it in the John and Brad coaching. We were going to do a couple revamps. I've got some cool new backgrounds for you. When John and I are going to be talking about some different tactics and stuff like that, and we'll make that one of them. And I think that fights last is actually something that's not super easy to get around, but you can build when you're building your army. You have to have multiple units. You're going to be semi-MSU on this. Most armies can have the ability to do that, but being able to fight around, especially offensively fighting around defensive fights last, can be fairly easy. So you're basically, there's a ton of tactics, and we'll definitely talk about them, and we'll just show you. You know what I mean? And that's what we're here for, is showing you those tactics. Siegs is looking at me with this thing like, come on, man, I've been blocking these fight last for years. I can't be stopped by fight last.
The first time I played with Fight Last really was with this AdMech build where I have 2 different instances of it. But typically I played armies that had no Fight Last, and I just didn't care. Then I did play with the Silent King, to be fair. He doesn't Fight Last.
I was going to say, he's got fight last. He's got beat you up.
I started playing with Fight Last, and it is actually very useful. The main thing it does is it's an offensive tool. It means you can fight in 2 different places and activate first in both places.
Yeah. It just,
It's
I
really
like it. I like fight last offensively. I think that the decrease range and the ability to just stop it is just a big deal in most armies. And we'll go over that. I'm going to tell you the truth. We'll set that up for next week. 100%.
The meta is so melee based that being able to win multiple fights in a single turn can just completely shift the battlefield.
100% on that. And we saw that with Drukhari winning a lot this week. You know what I saw though? The meta is still very, very diverse. We had Iron Hands, we had I had multiple Deathwatch Proteus teams all over the place. We had a Knights player in the top 3. We had just different stuff. What are you looking at right now when you're looking for getting ready for a singles event? Are you looking for you've typically been the Siegler, the crowned Emperor Siegs, just going, I'm going to be at a top table, so that's really the only thing that I'm worried about, and play myself out of it. I, however, am pessimistic on it, and I build my army to go, I'm not getting beat by nonsense between now and hopefully the finals. What are you building around and in for right now?
I mean, to be fair, I did put the extra tools into my Metallica list. Like, I don't actually need the Metallica in Lung or the -1 toughness aura in the vast majority of matchups. But if Custodes show up like they are wont to do, I would really like to have both of those things. So I've built in the extra. I paid 2 CP to basically build in a safety net against Custodes and any T8 type of army. So I have built in some safety nets. But typically, the lists that I run are so strong into the vast majority of the fields, and then they're tailored specifically for the top armies that I'm not too worried about, matchups. That's why I love the format of, winners play winners. It doesn't matter what points it is. It's just random winners play winners. You just keep rolling. Just get max points turn after round after round after round. Just keep on going. I love that a lot of the tournament formats switch to just random pairings.
When you're making stuff, and I'll tell you how I'm doing it on this. When you're looking for your proposed secondaries and your play style on it, are you looking to try to go a little bit more max? Are you taking things like rods, which will take you 3 points off when you're building your army and you're looking for it, or is it just a combination of both?
Yeah, I typically go for the secondaries that are going to net me the safest points without having to work too hard. So if the very natural ones are like Stranglehold, that's so natural for the army because I want to deny primary points and I also want to force them to take me off them. So almost always Strangleholds. I love taking Eradication of the Flesh with AdMech, but obviously that's not for every faction. If I had, if I
That is
could,
a broken secondary.
fair and balanced secondary, I just have to keep my transport alive.
A fair
You
and
know,
balanced secondary. Your transport that literally never pops its head out
okay,
ever.
to be fair, is completely useless in some matchups. Like I can't take it, but it happens to be good in this particular meta because the top armies are Drukari and Sisters, and they're both MSU infantry armies. If they weren't though, then I would need to rethink that. But and AdMech doesn't do to the last very well. It's actually pretty hard to build around. And you could people build towards the flyers with -1 damage. But I'm still nervous.
It's still be seen. Anything that can't be hidden behind obscuring is always a danger zone for me.
Honestly, if I was playing the Mars cohort and I really wanted to build to the last, I would just throw Call in there and accept that I was playing 100 points down for no. Just like he's walking around this monster with 4 up invul -1 damage.
It's fair. I love that. As fair and balanced as Herd the Prey. Herd the Prey actually takes the same spot in Battlefield Supremacy, though. I was already probably going to take Stranglehold, so half the time I'm not going to take Herd the Prey because Stranglehold's so good right now.
It's so good.
And it's funny because in everybody, they barely changed it, but that small change took it from something that you only took in 5 objective missions to something you can take almost every single time.
I take it every game. I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, probably, yeah, exactly. I was saying, I almost same, most of the time you're taking it because, and here's the thing is that, and this is why it's so much better. And you see people back and forth on like Engage versus Stranglehold. Engage means I have to risk something. I have to go into Siegs' side of the board. I have to give him a unit. And if I get into his board side, he might be playing a slower army. He might be playing a slow, a unit. All of a sudden that unit gets to have something to charge. And then from that charge, they get a consolidate and then they get a pile in move. So I don't want to basically score 2 points and give my opponent 12 inches of extra movement. You know what I mean? So on a unit that possibly couldn't have got anywhere in the thing, Stranglehold basically says, hey, if you need me, I'll be on my side of the table, waiting for you to step over here so I can use all of my resources to kill whatever you put over here. And also just continually, basically, without risking things, getting 3 points. It's such a good, crazy thing. And the fact is you can tell your opponent, and how you watch any of the videos of us on this. I mean, you do it all the time, Richard, on this you just watch and you put something and you hide it. And you're basically like, I never have to do anything. I'm just going to keep scoring these points. You have to come do something about it or I'm going to put down a 95. You know what I mean? And
I love that type of list. Just score as many points as possible. Usually it's MSU based, but sometimes it has more durable elements. Like my Tau list was both board control built around like a couple large units that were to the last.
I love it. Lyle did have a good one. Herd the Prey is super balanced secondary in the Necron Codex.
If you play an army that doesn't do damage, it's actually kind of hard to kill all the opponent's units in your half of the board. But we'll see you next time, Gundam.
Take it easy, brother. But so we had Drukari doing well. I think you have Fast Things doing well, period. We've seen a huge amount of Dreadnought armies push into the forefront. I mean, they were already going, but the last 2 weeks, you've seen just 4 to 6 Dreadnought armies. What are your thoughts on that, Siegs?
They are very strong. The Space Marine Dreadnoughts are undercosted. The Redemptor, the Contemptor with Volkites, it's all extremely strong. I think the main limiting factor in why they aren't winning as much as you would expect is simply because of the terrain differences. So Games Workshop Orlando, it is really darn hard to play a vehicle-heavy army on that format against a fast army because they will just move block you into oblivion. And turn after turn, cheap unit comes, contests the primary point, and move blocks your vehicles. And they'll just keep on doing it. And there's no real counterplay to that unless you have teleports. And even then, they could screen out parts of the board. So pretty tough there. And then the player plays terrain on the frontline format that they're using. It just means your opponent who is melee heavy can have a relatively close to midfield ruin to act as a launching point. The whole point of the Dread builds is that turn 1, they can get a really good angle after their movement phase on some of the units in your deployment zone. The player plays terrain, there's no guarantee you'll get that. And that means they have to walk closer to you, and then they get hit like a ton of bricks turn 1 or turn 2 with all these advance and charge, extremely powerful melee armies, whether Metallica, Black Templars, White Scars, Drukari. Any of them can just move right in to the center of the board and start taking out Dreadnoughts. There's also still tons of anti-tank, so it can be a little inconsistent with the invulns. I know Jack has played a couple games where the 5-ups just were not with him,
We're
and that
not
meant
with him. The
he
Dominus did not give him the mojo.
did not give him the mojo. He just died to like 4 last chickens. So that is a facet. We saw this past weekend, I believe, Manny Chima went down to an AdMech list with his buggy list because his buggies take up his entire deployment zone, and you have to
Well,
go second.
he also, I was to say, he went second for a change, and the guy picked up half his army.
Yeah, like that's just brutal. So I try not to play lists that could potentially lose like that.
I'm not ever. That's the thing is I feel having a versatile army myself, and I've always been kind of crazy about this. I look for something that can play in well into everything, as opposed to amazing. And Nick and I used to have this kind of differing philosophy on it, because he would say he'd always want to take something that plays super well into what he thought it was going to be at the final top 8, whatever. And then just take his chances, on the outliers. And I worry too much that I'm going to face one of those outliers, one of those aberrations. So I try to have a very versatile army. And the thing is like both of those are very, very good philosophies. It's really how you like to play the game on that. And I love that fact about it is that you can win at a high level having different philosophies on it, as long as you have the basic, say, building blocks. And start off with a good breakfast. But you just have to have like an army that can take points. And that's the thing is that you see too many people, and I watched a lot of people try it against especially yourself and your AdMac games. You see players, even top players, get caught up in trying to kill you as opposed to scoring points, and then you basically got up in points and got to play very cautious. And the thing is that somebody that's very meticulous like yourself with moves and everything else, as soon as you get up in points, the game's just kind of a dumpster for the opponent, because you just basically continually make them send 30-40% of their army into 80+% of your army, and you're always going to win that trade.
Yeah. One of the other things I really like when I design lists is to just try and take away a particular tool that might be prevalent in the meta. So right now, there's a lot of really powerful anti-tank weapons that are flat 3 plus D3 damage, Dark Lances, you got the Twin Cognis Las Cannons, you've got the damage on the Redemptors. So all these are very scary weapons. I don't care whatsoever. In my Tau list, I have drones to pass them off, because usually they're not at an obscene volume. Or my Riptide can touch terrain and then get back behind it, so it doesn't care. And then nothing really else cares. So I can force my opponent to come out and then shoot them all away. I get to be the first person to interact. With the Metallica list, I have 5-up invulns pretty much everywhere, and those weapons are really inefficient against T3, just mass T3 5-up invuln. So I don't care how many multi-meltas that they bring. It's just not going to do anything. So I like building a list that takes a part of the meta that's pretty scary that people are building towards, and I just ignore it. I don't care. I'm going to design the list such that it doesn't care whatsoever.
I'm afraid of rolling ones. Do you try to build around? This is a question I get asked quite a bit. I wanted to throw it out to you and give both of our opinions on it, because we're talking about what's in the meta right now. You've got all the Drukhari. I've got a two-parter. One, do you try to take away any particular? You said, you're trying to take away weapons. Do you try to take away certain secondaries? And are you building towards against the top list right now? We were talking about today, where we talked the 5 best lists that you thought about. Are you skewing your list in that, or are you just kind of bring the best all-around list you can and just going from there?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely considering other MSU melee armies and just trying to build a better version of that, a list that has more tools than those, because I typically shoot harder than most MSU melee armies, and I often have more trading units. So I've tried to build those advantages in. But in terms of denying secondaries, I really like how AdMech can deny secondaries, because you can put defensive buffs on a particular unit and then string out another unit at an angle where they could potentially come in. And between Cerberus Raiders and the big Ranger brick, I have a lot of potential, AdMech's equivalent of the Auspex scan, to just pick those units up. And so turn after turn, you can potentially just keep denying Retrieve Octarias. Most people don't get more than 4 points against me when they take it, which means they're probably picking banners, in which case I can give them a really nice low score because of the speed of Cerberus Raiders in the early game and just all the Metallica shenanigans. You can start by having units on both sides of your opponent's home objectives, and they're gonna not be able to raise banners turn after turn after turn. So I do like that my list denies both of those secondaries really well. So if they don't have an alternative, I feel in a very comfortable position on that. Also, Cerberus Raiders just straight up deny Stranglehold turn after turn if you set it up, because you can move block objectives. And if they charge you, you just fall back away. If they shoot you away, they're not getting on the objective unless they have jank like Devout Push. So I really, really am a huge fan of Cerberus Raiders for winning games.
So you didn't answer the whole question, man. You left me out of the thing.
What was the last part?
So you're denying some secondaries and you're building on that. Are you building kind of where you give it more of an overall? Are you saying that you just basically take an army that can take on just everything, or are you focused on making sure it can beat the people that are doing the best right now?
I took a list that I feel can beat almost any army in the game, and that's why I built those extra tools like I was talking about, Metallic and Long, the -1 toughness aura. Basically not needed against almost every faction in the game, but the couple times it's needed, it actually helps win those games, as you saw in the Worm game I played against Custodes. So I happen to spend a couple extra CP that I don't really need to do. If I was only targeting the top 4 or 5 lists in the game, I wouldn't spend those CP. I could play the game easily without them. I could probably even drop the Tempercopia and play without that fight less and just use the character for Electroshocked. But I built those in just as extra layers of redundancy because I also have mastered CP discipline with the list.
Which is a huge thing for everybody. I can't state that enough. Man, don't reroll stuff that doesn't need to be rerolled. It's a trap. Admiral Akbar pops out every time you do that.
Nick was a slave to the CP reroll for like months, and then he's finally gotten off of it. And all of a sudden, he's playing Custodes and has like 8 CP in turn 3. I was proud of him.
And the thing is that it's such a big deal because unless something's just that save that's gonna score you 5-10 points kind of thing, just don't bother because it doesn't make a difference. That and also defensive strats that statistically mean absolutely nothing. Also no. So when you're transhumaning that unit that's going to die, whether it's transhuman or not, you just burnt 2 CP most of the time. You know what I mean? So it is a thing, and then you get to the end of the game and you're like, man, I really want to be able to interrupt in these 2 fights. You know what I mean? And basically make it so I'm taking this last objective. It becomes a big deal. Having those CP, the threat of those CP is a big deal too. I'm playing Siegs right now, and he has 3-4 CP left in the end game. What I can do against him is very, very different than if he has 0 CP. When I know he can't interrupt, I know he can't pop a strat, things of that nature. It's such a big deal, and it's such a different game. So yes, do that. Question wise, I knew that you wanted this because I'm excited about it. Is Thousand Sons MSU viable? Yes and no. Well, I actually like my favorite Thousand Sons army right now is 5 or 6 characters and a ton of MSU with Spawn, Rubrics, Zangor, just basically stuff, spacing, basically to make sure you have proper spacing, because you just can't get your characters killed or in danger. But I don't think that Thousand Sons is going to make it through 6 games, 8 games and stuff like that, because they have a couple matchups that are very, very difficult.
Sisters.
Yeah. that's a dumpster.
Practically impossible.
But I do like them in team a lot. If when you look at teams, that's definitely an army that I would consider, just because the armies that they're good into, especially if you're talking about not a win-loss like Vegas, if you're talking about an army that's, you're going into differential and just total points for the game, Thousand Sons is something I would definitely consider, because when they win huge, I think, because they have some really matchups that people can't do anything against them. Because especially if you're an elite army and you just can't take all those mortals, they can pick up some serious stuff. So I do like that type of... If I'm playing Thousand Sons, I'm definitely playing that.
Their biggest weakness seems to be mobility. It's just getting across the board and contesting opponents primary. They're similar to Death Guard in that.
They do have the Duplicity teleport spell, and you've also got a relic for it too. So I like to have those in my back pocket. I'm definitely bringing Duplicity on that, so I can just move things around the board. So I mean, I like Thousand Sons more than other people do, I think, but I also like their lore. I've read I'm rocking in. I'm a fluff bunny on that. I'm a power gaming fluff bunny. I'm the weirdest guy ever. That's why I dropped my own bandwagon. So, but I think that they have play. I think they have play more in team though. In my opinion on that, just because of the fact that I'm never going to take an army where if I go, hey, I'm playing this, I'm probably going to lose. So that's just my personal opinion. You can play whatever the hell you want, you know what I mean, and do well. If it's your type of army, for sure. You know what I mean? If you got awesome looking Thousand Suns all over the place, throw them down. Don't listen to what the hell I'm saying at that point in time. Slam them down. You're going to have a bad time against sisters, but I
think Grey Knights are actually hilariously tough as well.
I was just about to say, yeah, both armies, their counter is just there.
Grey Knights don't need their psychic powers. Thousand Suns 100% need them.
Yeah, I do love them in a team tournament because you just go, don't play that. You know what I mean? You put them out as a defender. You basically refuse their bad matchup and you move on with your life. So
that's fine.
So, but in singles, you're gonna have literally, if you go into a grand tournament, you know what I mean? You're playing 5 to 9 games, depending on where you go. You're gonna have a Sisters or a Grey Knight match, and it's gonna be a tough match. And I actually think that Drukhari is probably a really hard match for him also, because if I'm playing Drukhari against Thousand Suns, I'm going to missile my characters into your characters, and I'm going to try to kill your characters, and I'm going to put Raiders in front of you so that they soak up a bunch of smites. And that the problem is that they don't have a lot of speed. They can't punch their way out of a paper bag. They have a Demon Prince that hits hard, and everything else kind of doesn't. They've got decent shoot. They've got good shooting, hand to hand, and amazing mortals. So they're an army that takes a lot of skill to use.
I love how you skip Christian. Hey, Richard, personally share your opinion that after the FAQs, Drukhari is still superior to AdMech. AdMech can be dealt with. Drukhari is horrible to face, Brad. There it is. Truth. And,
because I was going to couple those in together, because Brian said, do you guys think that Drukhari is the best army at the moment, considering how well they have been doing in tourneys? Look, here's the thing. I try to play the most underpowered armies I can to really give them a slot, because I'm not known to be bandwagoning at all. If you see me playing something, you probably think that it's only because of lore reasons, not because it's the most powerful thing I could find. Yes, I do think that Drukhari. I have to begrudge after the nerfs. I actually do think that Drukhari went back up. I do think that AdMech. It depends on the terrain, to tell you the truth. If you're playing, but the problem is that a lot of tournaments are now going towards GW style, FLG style terrain, and I think that on heavier terrain, Drukhari is number one. On very light terrain, Drukhari can have serious problems because it can get demeched very quickly. So that is the thing.
Yeah, where I was able to just, in the early turns against Drukhari with Tau, I was able to kill most of their army in their deployment zone, and they never got to me. That is just not happening anymore. The terrain has kind of really shifted over the past couple months. So on the heavier terrain, it's really hard to deal with Drukhari on your terms. You have to deal with Drukhari on their terms, which is almost always a losing formula.
on their terms of this. Let's talk about a couple of things that came out in Warhammer, my friend. We've got a new thing we have a new show on Warhammer Plus, which I'm actually, because I'm a lore psycho, they basically go over different characters and do deep dives on them, which I thought was fantastic. You've got all the Orc pre-orders. Like, we had a lot of stuff, and that was Orc previews in Sigmar and 40k. Thank you very much. They just said, screw it, we're going all in Orcs. Let's do this. But we had AdMech on the White Dwarf, Flashpoint Octarius, thank you very much. But we had a lot of new models come out. They're also giving away, there's a giveaway right now. If you go to the GW site, Warhammer Community, they actually have a giveaway plan for a Titan. So there's some super cool stuff. I know a lot of you guys don't care at all, but I'm pretty psyched up because there's a bunch of compilations of books in the Black Library. I know it's 40k today, but it's also my thing on that. They have short stories. They have tons of those, and I love it because I like to base my armies off really cool stuff. So, have you got a chance to check out we talked a little bit about it the very last time you and I were talking about it, but have you ever checked out the Warhammer Plus?
No, I have yet to check out Warhammer Plus. Just been doing other things, but as soon as the Eisenhorn TV series comes out, I will be on it, 100%.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I'm super psyched up about that. Let's talk about still no kill rigs and Megasquig. Yeah, man, I don't know what's up with that. from what I know right now, London GT is not letting you play any model that doesn't have a already released. Like, so basically you can't bring a Beast Boss and Squig, you couldn't bring a Kill Rig, and things of that nature, even though they're out in the book. So I think that's their ruling right now, which makes me sad because the Beast Boss and Squigosaur is probably my favorite orc thing. It's a war boss riding a dinosaur, and if you don't like that, you're basically a communist. That is
Kill
sadness.
seriously good.
They also put out the pain, and they
Yeah,
have
when
a
they-
harpoon.
Changed the orc meta a lot.
Yeah. The thing is that you have to watch out. You got to watch out for the parking lot syndrome, of course. But there's some things that hit really, really hard in there. You know what I mean? So, and I really wish they put that out. I at least wish they would put out that what the dimensions of it are, so at least you can make your own until they get it.
It's complete guesswork, which is why we haven't done it yet.
Yeah, I would say it's just, but you don't know. You don't know the base. You don't know the height. You know what I mean? You have to just go on it. Imagine converting from the Mangler Squigs. Yeah. So, exactly. The new orc models are super good. I'm not going to lie. If you look on the community, all the new stuff they put out looks very, very cool. I really like the new sculpts, and I really like the AO. I'm not going to lie. Keep taking the AOS stuff and making it 40K stuff. I've been doing a ton of that lately. Just basically buying AOS models and just putting them as my 40K stuff. They're putting a lot of great sculpts out. The London Grand Tournament is saying that, at least what I was told, two different people have told me that I have to get a full ruling. So if anybody can give me the 100% on that, but they're saying that you can't bring anything that's not released on it. So you couldn't bring a Beast Boss on Squeezasaur, which makes me sad because he's like an auto take for me because that dude crunks. As far as a proper orc lad, put that dude with Beast Hide and Arta's Nails. He's literally T7, -1 to wound, -1 damage innately, 5 up feel no pain, 7 attacks without wog because he comes with 5, 1 for the Beast Hide, 1 for his weapon, and then of course 3 for his dinosaur he rides. Call it a Squigosaur. He's literally riding a dinosaur. He's Kung Fury. He's literally, see, you could clearly tell he had raptors with laser beams on their head. Things were happening. Things were happening, everyone. So, what are your thoughts on orcs, man? You didn't put them in the top 5. That made me look at me. I can't even say look at me because we're not on a thing together, but you can look at the thing and wait for the delay. Tears are flowing down my face. That orcs faith. I started talking orc right there. Tears are running down my face because they didn't make a top 5 spot. Where do you actually have orcs? I think in your heart you have them way lower than even just looking. I think you basically said they were watching the top 5 from their home on a television screen.
I think they're top 8 for sure. I just think that the builds that we've seen either skew too hard into a lot of just volume of shots that don't really like cover and -1 to hit, and or they're going into the melee variant, which I just don't think hit as hard as some of the other serious combat armies. Advanced and Charge Axis is really strong. They have very good indirect fire compared to the game, and they can put out a lot of units. I just feel like when their units get hit, they're pretty paper thin, and they can lose a lot very quickly. I also think the mass buggy spam is too easily move blocked by good fast armies.
100%.
So,
I like a mix of that. I've actually been looking at orc
I
planes.
think the kill rig honestly is part of like the winning lists, but
Anytime, literally T8 anything is difficult to deal with. Yeah.
it just take the psychic secondaries and let that thing just soak it up. I could very see an MSU built around kill rigs doing really well, but like I said, we have no idea what the dimensions are, so we're not even going to try and convert them.
Right. You just get the thing. So I have actually been looking at a lot of the flyer stuff for orcs because of the fact, the biggest one is too expensive for me, but I've looked at the docket jets and the burner bomber and stuff like that. I'm always worried about all that stuff. I thought about just doing it in bloody axes so I could just put them in reserve if I didn't go first. Because I am worried sometimes that, anytime you bring a flyer type thing, that it's just going to get pieced up. Because a lot of times you're hiding. Because the rest of your army's hiding, your infantry are hiding. Everything's basically hiding, except for the planes. So if I was going to bring them, I would bring detachment of bloody axes so that I could just pop them in reserve. But for their points, having 6 just 36 shots or whatever is pretty badass for a plane, you know what I mean? And then you've of course got Burnabama shenanigans, where they just have a pie plate of 12 inches that they can put mortals on, possibly. So it's just one of those things that alters your opponent's playstyle, especially if you're playing somewhere, player place terrain at FLG, where you're going to have one ruin where your opponent wants to put a lot of their army. Having the ability to say, if I go first, I'm going to fly over you and do, just a possibility of a crap ton of mortals, is something they have to deal with. It's the same reason that things like the Dark Eldar bombers and stuff like that don't go into a lot of lists, but when they do, Skari loves them. But it's the threat more than anything. It's scary in that, and anything that kind of makes it so your opponent has to deploy different. You were just talking about planes today with the AdMech. It's one of those things that is, they still do all the things that planes do. They move block. They can get to things that people are trying to hide. They make it very hard for your opponent, especially if it's later in the game. Turns 3, 4, 5. If you still have a plane available, it's very hard for your opponent to try to take a unit and just set it there and hope that they're going to take an objective with basically a very non-durable unit. You can get back there with a lot of shots. A lot of these planes have just a huge amount of volume, especially the orc shots. So, no, definitely not 9 scrap jets and 9 Squiggies. But yeah, I can't. Anything that's too skewed, we've talked about this a lot. Anything that's too skewed, the problem is that the better players are going to see what you have weaknesses in, and they're going to take advantages of those weaknesses. So if you're skewed super heavy in any one direction and you don't have an answer for something else, the better armies are going to basically take advantage of your weaknesses.
I also haven't played against a scary freebootist list yet. I think that helps solve the -1 to hit problem. And funnily enough, in the Worm this week, we are doing a sub-match or a match.
I love that you put a sub-match. Whoa.
A coaching match in which I am testing my AdMech list into a variety of orc builds for the team event. So we'll see if we can come up with some orc builds that give me some trouble.
I actually like a lot of I actually think that the orc builds I've been playing with, I feel like they've been getting better and better into a lot of things. But I also think that the meta is being more diversified, so that they feel better into that. The problem is that even though Drakari is not very good into a lot of things, I think it plays very well into orcs. I just like being able to say that multiple times in any cast, the fact that my Drakari are very underpowered. So when I play them and I win with them, then people are like, maybe they are underpowered. Brad's winning with them at least.
The OnlyFans match.
Exactly.
War After Dark.
After Dark. Now that they lifted my ban, I'm ready to go. It's a very odd outfits Brad's wearing for this game, but we're going to allow it. It's After Dark. What are your thoughts right now? As far as we talked about, we had the Meta Monday earlier, but we didn't have Mr. Siegs on it. You talked about the earlier today, because I want to make today kind of the what's happening in the meta kind of thing. You guys talked about the top five armies. Obviously, we've got some new stuff coming out. We've got Chaos in 2022. We've got 3 codexes, including Black Templars, coming out. We've got Grey Knights and obviously Thousand Suns that'll be in the meta. They haven't been really a lot available for a lot of tournaments until now. So what do you think that we're going to see? Is there going to be any flip in the top? If we keep the terrain the way it is, if we're playing FLG-esque, great GW-esque terrain, do you think that there's going to be, oh my God, furry outfits. Yeah, I can't even ask the question anymore. Do you think there's going to be a mix-up in the top 5? Or is it...
So I'm very skeptical on Thousand Suns. Grey Knights, possible, though I think they suffer on the heavier terrain formats because you really want to be more Dread Knight heavy. And I don't think the MSU is as good, unfortunately. The Interceptors are really good. If you could take 1,000 Interceptors, sure. But you can cap out at 30. So, and who knows what's going to happen with Words of Power. I think if Words of Power goes down, then their hitting power goes down.
I just don't see how they make it down, because it literally states that if you're in Convergence, you get a mortal wound.
There are people who are convinced that for some reason they wrote that into the power instead of like everywhere else in the Grey Knight Codex, where when they wrote a rule and wanted it to be accepted, they literally put the exception in. Like
Yeah, but
Vortex.
there's no. I mean, you can't even use it without being in convergence. It literally says that.
I don't understand the argument, but anyway, people are convinced that they're going to nerf that, and so if they do, then I think that is an actual serious hit to their.
That is though, because you can't do the 5-man explosion thing. Because right now you can literally take that 5-man strike squad with full rerolls on both hit and a wound, and you could literally put 2 guys into an incubi unit and 3 guys into a witch unit and clear them out. If you're not getting 2 mortals per 6, you can't do that. You know what I mean? You also couldn't put them into a super tough unit of Terminators. You couldn't put them into Death Guard.
Dread.
Yeah, or Dreads. Any of those things. You know what I mean? They'll bounce. So yeah, exactly. Everything else that says that is it's an exception, or a combination doesn't work. They already stated it doesn't work. Yeah. So I don't understand that argument at all. I understand that basically maybe if you think it's too strong and needs a nerf, sure, that's an argument you could have. But as far as like how the mechanic works, I don't understand the argument for it at all.
I think the other faction that could potentially, like, we rank Black Templars up there, though it could have been Ultramarines if Games Workshop format didn't exist, because I think that really hurts the Ultramarine list. But they're up there. I think Black Templars getting a new book. Who knows what it's going to bring? If they take away Devout Push and Advance and Charge, it could be actually a nerf to Black Templars, funnily enough. But they'll probably get buffed elsewhere. It's just how much will they get buffed? I don't know if they're losing those things. They probably will keep them. But those 2 things are what that army is built around right now: Devout Push, Advance and Charge.
Yeah.
So who knows what happens if with those?
I mean, they might get a ton of other stuff. You know what I mean? So, but I do like the flavor of. I think Black Templars have a ton of shenanigans.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, I mean, the fact that you can literally set up in on your opponent's phase basically and hide, then take an objective. It just Devout Push is just disgusting. And the fact that the things that we didn't even talk about is that they still have on a 2-up, you're basically holding people in combat. You know what I mean? They just have a lot of suite of good abilities. So Vortex of Doom plus Psychic Epitome. I mean, just there's all kinds of things. I would love to see people commenting with V2 Briggs from Warhammer plus animations for sure. I would like to see. I really liked the GW. I don't know how you guys felt about it, but when Nick was involved with commenting on the GW games that you were playing on, right? When you're playing in Orlando, and I did like. I would love to see a man on the scene though. You know what I mean? I think they did a really good job, but I would like to see somebody that knows the game basically explaining to the commentators what the board state is, so they can give you a great.
They did. It was John Moore, a War member. He was there working with the Warhammer community.
Yeah,
team.
but I mean, they were going to do more of it. I'm saying, so they knew exactly what was happening on each one, so that person could give them more updates and stuff because they were going to multiple tables. You know what I mean? So I'd like to see more. But I just love that because you can, if you have a man on the scene, he can literally go, okay, Glennon has his stuff here, he's hiding it here, and this is what this table state is, and Siegler's coming over here, maybe that you couldn't see from top down. And I love those. Get informed, great commentary from people that know the game. You know what I mean? I love it. It makes me more involved in it. You know what I mean? So
it really does make a difference. I saw nothing but positivity in the community when talking about the commentary for Orlando. So I'm sure that Paul and Nick are working on their commentary skills for New Orleans and then Austin. So I'm excited to see what they come up with.
Well, here's the question for everybody.
To mention power bottoms again.
Yeah, exactly.
Apparently that happened. I still have not. If somebody finds the clip, please tell me what video and time stamp it is because I need that.
That and I'm Nick Navati, and I like to potty.
Potty time.
Potty time. Here's the question: is New Orleans going to happen?
I hope so. Well, I hope primarily what I hope for is that the city gets back on its feet.
100%.
That's the most important thing. Then that they get back on their feet enough that the event can happen.
But if you were a betting man, you're going to the Caesars right now on the betting line. What do you have it as?
Honestly, my next 2 months is obscene. It's the team tournament in Las Vegas. Then it's New Orleans the weekend afterwards. Then there's a small break. And then we are doing a collaboration with the guys at Tabletop Titans for a tournament leading up to SoCal, which then SoCal Open all in San Francisco. And then after that, we have Austin in November. So this streak of events is going to be wild.
Dude,
if them fall out, I'm not going to be mad.
I literally have Vegas teams followed by New Orleans, followed by the Michigan GT the very next week after that, and then I have the Canadian tournament, Snotling Squig Death Match. I keep getting yelled at because I never remember the name of it. I'm pretty sure it's the Canadian Snotling Death Match, but that's at the end of the October. So I'm playing in 4 tournaments in 5 weeks. So, and traveling to literally a different city and one different country for one of them. So I'm excited for it. Look at you.
Matt actually watched every single minute of the GW stream, as far as I'm aware. If you can find that clip, Nurgle you let me know.
And I do think that's going to be awesome. What are we talking about with that? Because I'm actually pretty excited about that because I didn't know that we confirmed it. So this is me finding out about it. This is what happens when you don't live in the powerhouse.
We're still working on the details, but leading up to SoCal, our plan is to send myself and John over, and we'll do part of a tournament there. So soon we'll be playing Admech and Sisters, but I know we selected the top 8 armies that we want to do, and I'm really excited about it. Those guys are amazing, and
we do some great content. Great guys too. Really good dudes.
Really good dudes.
So combo on it. All right, tell me what's going on this week, Six.
Yeah, so this week we got a lot of cool content coming up. Like I said, tomorrow we are going to have Mr. Jack Harpster playing Drukhari. All of a sudden, he thinks he's a Drukhari player, and he wants to play the easy mode faction. So we're going to let him.
He knows that they don't wear power armor, though, right?
He knows that they're easy, and
that's what he was going for. I think he meant to say Jack was looking for a challenge. He's been playing too many Marines, and he's looking for a challenge with the Drukhari. Is what you meant to say.
So he got this challenge with Blood Angels. Now he wants the easy streak. So now he's going to be playing up against Nick's Death Guard. Nick hasn't played Death Guard in a while, but is pretty excited to get back to them. So we'll see. He's basically, there's a lot of combat Marines, combat armies in general in the meta, and he thinks Death Guard actually are super well suited for dealing with very heavy armies. So he's coming up with a list that can do that. And then we've got a hangout and hobby on Wednesday. Like normal, it's going to be Nick and I. Nick made a bet with John. And, of course, inevitably, Nick lost the bet, and so he has to paint the Harlequins army by the end of the year. And if you've been following us for a while...
Did you specify which year, or did you say the end of a year?
This year. No Nick Nanavati get around this. So he does need to finish the Harlequin army by the end of the year, so Nick will be on more hangout and hobbies than usual, because he's certainly not doing it in his free time.
Oh, yeah. We had we had to basically chain him to the table to get him to paint that one squig buggy. So I love a Gundam. Top 8 armies, 7 custodes list, and an Ultramarines list.
There's just a list with Gilliman and 3 Fire Raptors.
It's just so many golden bananas are out there. So many golden bananas.
I assume there's going to be a wide spread of armies. We're going to pick a lot of the more recent codexes as well, and I'm excited to see how that goes down.
I'm psyched. We got some good stuff. There's some really exciting games this week also. I just like it.
Admech vs. Orcs coming up in the War Room. I am stress testing my Las Vegas Teams event army into a variety of orc builds that could potentially be tailored towards Admech.
And if you guys haven't watched the stress test before, I love it from a coaching standpoint. I think you'll learn a lot if you jump into these because of the fact that we really focus on everything that could and would happen kind of thing. And there's adjustments, there's resets, there's basically talking about the how and why of basically every move. I love it. You know what I mean? Going over the breakdown of literally everything from list creation to this is why this unit's in here to why I did something like that. If you get a chance to watch these, you can learn so much from even just one game. It's fantastic.
Yeah, we haven't posted one on YouTube in a little bit, but if you go ahead, actually for members, there is the RTT final we did a couple weeks ago with my Admech versus John Sisters, which was a lead up to the Games Workshop Orlando. Who knew we were going to play that final and repeat that matchup? But if you go back weeks on the normal channel, I believe there's a White Scars versus Necron game, which was referenced earlier, which Gundam wants us to repeat, which I'm happy to do. And then what was the other one? I believe there was another coaching match that we uploaded. So just type in coaching match Art of War, and you should be able to find it pretty easy.
Love everything about it. Give me some words of wisdom for the week so I know how to live.
Brad, Drukhari are straight up broken. They're the strongest army in the game. You need to accept it for the good of your soul and your mind, your aging mind on the throne.
I mean, I literally have an animation which shows me driving the bandwagon I'm okay with it.
At best, that AdMech can be dealt with. Drukhari are just obscene. 100%. The 72% win rate, it's just going to stay up there. Like, Drukhari are that powerful. So I'm excited for their points increases because I think that's mostly what they need is just points across the board. So we'll see.
I don't even like I don't like talking to you anymore. This is hurtful. This is hurt. I feel attacked.
Actual army soon, and I'm excited for that.
You know that I'm going to leave them immediately upon that. They got a points nerf. I'm like, ejector seat gone. New army in play.
I bet Black Templars have some silly stuff, and then you're going to be playing Black Templars.
Oh yeah, I have no shame. My hat should actually say no loyalty. So, everybody, thanks for hanging out with us today. I appreciate it a ton. We've got tons of stuff we already talked about going on this week, and as always,